Welcome everyone in Nigeria and the rest of the world. This is State of the Nation. I am Gimba Umar. Right behind me, data feeds are still coming through on all our social media platforms in one place simultaneously. Be part of the show. Tweet at Gimba Umar CTV. Use the hashtag State of the Nation. Let's get your thoughts through. The nation's banks could lose as much as 466 billion naira investment in the power sector due to a new policy by the National Electricity Regulatory Commission, NERC. The power sector has faced mounting challenges since it was privatized, raising the question, should the nation have privatized the alien sector in the first place after billions of dollars were spent since the advent of democracy in 1999? Already, the distribution companies have issued a force majeure on the heels of a new eligible customer regulation bill. Sam Amadi is the former chief executive of the National Electricity Regulatory Commission. He joins me on State of the Nation. I want to thank you so much indeed for coming on the show at this time. Why are the discos, for instance, seeming to kick against this new eligible customers regulation law?
Well, I think in this industry, it's not unusual for operators to kick against regulations. That's number one. And in the nature of the business, operators have to look at their bottom line. What will this policy, this regulation, how will it affect our business? So kicking against is not unusual, but perhaps what's unusual is the extreme measure of force majeure, which suggests that they really feel that this regulation is going to bankrupt their business. How true is that, we'll assess. But the point is, the discos are kicking against it because they perceive that it has impact on their revenue and could actually make their business unprofitable as against their projection. They came to the market with certain assumptions of profitability and, of course, stable regulatory environment. And they are interpreting this bill as both a political risk, a regulatory risk in that it changes the game. That's their interpretation, and of course...
How then in practical terms, does this threaten the disco's survival in terms of a step-by-step view of the likely possibilities?
First and foremost, this bill seeks to authorize some kind of customers who are now called eligible to buy supply straight from the generating set. So what that means, assuming Channels is one of those eligible customer qualifies under the regulation, it means that instead of relying on Ikeja distribution company, I will guess, that serves you, you could buy power straight from Egbin directly. Now, what that means for Ikeja, if it comes to do that, it has lost a customer. Ikeja's revenue requirement, which the regulator uses to assess how much will be its tariff and what it will earn at the end of the year and how much it will reinvest in the network to expand and improve, is based on calculation of customer, including the major ones they call commercial, business, industrial customers. So essentially, how this works is that if it comes into effect and the eligible customer is defined broadly, so that means many people can opt out of the network. So when they opt out of the network, they cause a revenue under recovery for Ikeja, because Ikeja had benchmarked the revenue with these customers. And therefore, literally, they're going to lose revenue. But the question, therefore, is, compare with the public policy, and then what are the mitigating factors? What could the regulator do? And is this new regulation fashioned in a way that mitigate those risks and, optimize the gain that this declaration of eligible customer can bring?
If you say that, because I was of the opinion that this is supposed to be run as pay as you go. So if you have got from a cluster some pulling out to, say, using your example, join another disco,
or buy direct for myself,
or buy directly even from the Gencos,
yes,
will that not still amount to how much the consumer takes in his household? And then pay according to what it is that he's spending? Why spread the risk? Well,
because first, the tariff will go up. Now, let's take the example of Ikeja, okay? The Ikeja has some so-called industrial clusters, industrial customers, who probably about 0.0 something of their customer numbers. So if Ikeja had 4 million people, these big consumers could be less than, let's say, 50 to 100 to 200 people. But they constitute 40%, roughly, of their revenue base. So what that means, therefore, is that if these 4 people opt out and say, don't serve us, Ikeja will lose, technically, arguably, 40% of its revenue. Now, see how it works. When the tariff was designed for Ikeja, Ikeja computed all these customers and decided to share cross-subsidy. They decided to say, this is how much we will charge Mr. A household, because some of the cost will be taken by Mr. B, who is an industrial customer. So in our cost, in the tariff design, there are embedded cross-subsidy. Some customers subsidize because they can afford to pay. Okay. Now, if you remove these customers, two things will happen. You need to rebase your tariff by looking at, now, these are the customers I have, and therefore I have to share this new cost of business, new revenue requirement among these customers. So one thing is that one effect will be that tariff will go up for those customers who are being subsidized by the heavy off-takers. That's number one. Number two, if you don't do that properly regulatorily, it means that Ikeja or whichever other disco will be having loss of revenue, because you have taken, it's cherry picking. The big guys who pay more have left my network. At the same time, the cost of service, there are fixed costs, what we call capital costs, fixed. That doesn't vary with number of customers. For example, if a line goes through this place, no matter if you only channels or 3 or 4 customers, the same cost of that line will have to be amortized. Because it was,
but should that be the case?
That's the normal way it happens. So investments are lumped.
No. I mean, should that be the case? And then you say that that's the normal way it should happen.
What should be? I said that,
is that not an abnormally?